Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Silent Podcast, place for everything but silent. I'm your host, Isaiah, and I'm here with Naomi Calhoun to talk about this very fantastic Netflix show that we both watch called The 8 Show. Naomi, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm fantastic. I am excited to be talking about more scripted TV on silent podcasts. As you know, Latanya and I talked about The Sympathizer a couple of weeks ago, and now we're back to talk about another really interesting show, The 8 Show. So, Isaiah, I'm so glad that you were tweeting about how much you liked this because I also really like this show.
Yeah, so I'm on I love my Big Brother breaks, right? Because this is the time where I can really like watch some non-reality stuff. Like I watch a lot of scripted content, and I was watching TV at my parents' house. And the first thing I see when I open Netflix is this big thing called the A Show. I'm like, that looks interesting. And if you don't know me, I'm very picky with my TV show, so it's hard to get my interest. But it looked interesting, and I got hooked real quick. I watched it with my fiance, and I'm hooked. I'm addicted to the show. It's great. How'd you feel about it?
So I had no idea this was coming. I am a fan of Korean television for the most part, not like a lot of K dramas or any of the romance stories, but definitely the Squid Game style of like very dramatic, very money, social economy based games. Doesn't have to be about dying and killing people, but usually there's some form of violence involved. So I actually sort of went on a tear reading a lot of like manga and comics that are in the vibe. So I was reading The Liar Game, Alice in Borderland, and then somebody suggested reading a comic called Money Game. It was also because I watched Game of Blood, which had somebody from Money Game. This is all like a lot of background. And
You're okay.
Money Game is one of the two comics that this show is based off of. So when I started seeing people post like, "Oh, this is based on Money Game," I was like, "Oh, I'm in. I definitely need to watch this." And I thought it lived up to the concept that the original author intended. I thought it was very, very interesting. So, Isaiah, I'm going to tell you about Money Game in just a second and
Okay.
what that entails. There's two different comics that this is based off of. But not knowing anything, having no idea what this show is about, when you started to realize what was going on, I want you to walk me through like your surprise at like, oh shit, this is what's happening in this show.
So, real quick, I apologize to anyone who hears a crying puppy in the background. It's very loud right now. But so my initial thoughts, you're saying when I went into this, it's like it felt very Squid Games, and I really liked Squid Games on the first watch. Like I really enjoyed Squid Games, but it felt a lot more realistic with this one because instead of there being like this entity who has heavy influence on the show, which they still do with this one. This is a lot more reliant on its cast and the players instead of like some kind of like underground syndicate that's like holding guns to everyone. So like they give all the power to the players themselves. And in a
Mhm.
realistic standpoint, it really makes you think like, how would I react in this situation? And I don't think I would react any way better. Like I think that this show really shows that in this scenario, it's always going to result in some kind of like animalistic game where everyone's just trying to kill each other, and it's really sick, and it makes you think about humanity a little bit, not to get too
Yeah.
deep, but um I still
Yeah.
loved it. I thought I love the writing. I enjoyed chaotic television that really makes you think, but it doesn't mind getting too dark. I don't know what that says about me, but I still liked it. I really liked it a lot.
That is fantastic. I agree. I think it with everything you say, it's very Squid Game esque, but it's also its own beast and much more
Hmm.
focused in like people versus people. It's almost like a social hierarchy, a caste system in many ways, and it plays a lot into this show. So something that's interesting is there's Money Game and there's Pie Game. Pie Game is the sequel. I did not read Pie Game because I don't think it's been translated into English, or if it has, I did not have time to read it. I was looking for it after I finished this show, but Money Game is a little bit different. So when I heard it was based on Money Game, this definitely the show I was surprised throughout because I had an expectation of what it was based off of, and it was pretty different, while also exploring some of the similar themes. So in Money Game, there's a big number at the top on like a big red, similar to how the time is counting down, but imagine like a huge sum of money. I think it's like 44 billion won. And
Okay.
there's 8 people in 8 cement rooms with nothing in them, similar to this, where they don't have a toilet, they don't have food, they don't have anything. Um, they have no food in that one. And they go, you have to survive 100 days in here. That money up there is your prize money. Anything you want to buy comes from your prize money.
Hmm.
It's got that similar markup of like 1,000, 10,000 times more expensive than it is in the real world. So the people participating are in the situation where they're trying to spend as little as possible over 100 days to make it out with as much money as possible. But all 8 people can spend it however they would like. And they can have it, in their private rooms for the entire time. But in that comic, people can die. There's no punishment for death. So, in fact, people do die, and then it becomes a struggle of, if more people die, I get more money. So, do I show empathy and care to my fellow cement block mates or not?
Hmm.
That's a very internal one because they go through a lot more like physical suffering because they're not eating. There's a lot more like people attacking each other. But it also has a lot of similar, for example, like floor 6 getting paralyzed or getting hurt, is similar. Someone like floor 5 being such a uh no, everybody stop fighting, please. That character is similar. And of course our character is floor 3, who is kind of this guy who is so he's just a normal guy, but is so impotent in a lot of ways. Anyway, so
Right.
Money Game I really liked because it was so much about like, you're watching that number tick down and you're thinking to yourself, like, how desperate can I get for money? They're like eating like dog food pellets to save money, things like that. So when we walk into this show, and it's quite different because it's about the time that you last in the building and earning time and then the time multiplier, I was like, oh, this is not what I think it's going to be whatsoever. So I was really surprised from the moment I started the show that it was not exactly the same. But I'm happy to watch, and I would definitely recommend, if you liked the style of this, I think you should read Money Game and see what it's all about. Anyone who
And
says
I'm really interested to read it because and I'm shocked that the show is talked about more. But just to bring up the Money Game comparison to this, the way you explain Money Game reminds me, and I hate to bring a reality TV, the show on MTV. It was called Stranded with $1 Million, and they put people on an island and they give them $1 million. And they're like, if you get to this point, which was like super far out, and you last this amount of days, then you will be able to get like $1 million like split up. Like you guys can share it. And if they wanted anything, they had to spend some of their millions just to get stuff, and they needed a majority vote to get things. So it got really divided. People started getting very ugly, like purposely getting people sick or like not letting people eat, and it just got so chaotic. And it really kind of translates to this, where it's a lot more extreme, obviously, but it was really interesting. Naomi, do you think if you were in this situation that you do you think you would be able to morally compete in something like Money Games for a large amount of money?
I think I would definitely listen. I would not be as tough as she is, no question. But I'd probably be like number 2, where if somebody was being a total wasteful biatch, I would be like, fuck her. I would definitely make an enemy in the show if they were like pissing me off because they were not, they were being wasteful or being idiotic, or not even not sharing. Like, I think that's such a great, the way that the show constantly toys with like, what am I entitled to versus how can I act, what do I deserve and what do you deserve when you go against the higher rankings. I was so into it, but the whole time I was on floor 2's side. I was like, this bitch has it, she understands what's going on. We
Mm-hmm.
should beat the shit out of floor 8 and like take all of her money and take all of her clothes.
So I had to pull up the cast real quick because obviously they don't have names, they have numbers. But I feel like if I was in this, I'd probably be like number 7 without like, he was being really like sneaky at first. I'm not gonna lie. So probably without that. But morally, I feel like his head was in the right place, but he's also trying to protect himself a little bit, So it's like without the ugliness, I'm gonna try. Like I would love to sit here and cap and be like, oh, I would be like number 10, but like let's be real. I don't think I could bring myself to do the types of things that they were doing. Maybe I would even be like a number, like the main character number 3, maybe. I don't know, just like try to make things work, try to step in when I need to, but when it gets ugly with the hurting people, I'm gonna be like, yo, listen, like rebellion, let's go, So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it as well. Because the reality is like we are people who will stay quiet if it like, if it's some people know how to keep their mouth shut. And I
Mhm.
think it's a skill, but in a place like this, it's very clearly like keep your mouth shut or X is gonna happen to you. Which then gets really scary. And there is such an interesting I love this show because what the show understands, and we see it sort of executed with 3 and 7, is like once you turn to violence you can't go back, so you are trying as
Mm.
hard as you can to stave off violence, to make sure that it that is socially unacceptable. But the minute that violence becomes like a controlling factor, obviously it changes the entire dynamic of the group. And I like that this show, obviously there was, I think it got very showy and explicit with its fighting and its physical drama, but it understands at its core that it's like the scariest idea is when we become truly animalistic and start attacking each other.
So
So I was on the edge of my seat when those scenes started to happen.
let's do something fun. I know we didn't have this plan, but I like to do
Oh,
things popped
please,
out,
please.
So I
I'm
just found a
fun.
tier list, and we should rank the 8 characters about like how we feel as
I'm
characters.
fucking
Let's
dying.
do
Okay.
it. All right, bet. So here's the 8 characters. And we have a small little tier list. So how do we want to rank these characters? What do we want to base it off of, Naomi?
Okay. I think this is to me just like how how much was I rooting for them to like not get the shit kicked out of them?
Okay.
Because let me tell you, number one, my favorite character is Floor 2. I love Floor 2.
Okay.
I thought she was a great actress, and I thought she was a great character. So she's S tier for me.
I'm with that. I think Floor 2 had a lot going for her. I think she was interesting, and I would root for her. I wanted her to beat the crap out of what was it, Floor 8? I think that was his number. Or
Floor 8 was the woman,
sorry,
Floor 6 was the man.
Floor
That's
set,
okay.
Floor 6, Floor 6.
Yeah.
The big dude tripping. Tired of him. But yes, I like Floor 2. I really wanted her to beat the crap out of Floor 8. I'm not gonna lie, Naomi.
Agreed.
Missed opportunity.
Agree.
All right. How do we let's talk about Floor 1. How do you feel about Floor 1?
Floor 1 is a very interesting character to me because I think that first of all, in the Money Game comic, like the first room is much more almost like incel-y, and he's like really gross and
Mm.
skeevy. And they pivoted this character away from that a lot, which I was thankful for because I think it worked. But at the same time, bro lost 1 billion won for no reason. Like, of course they're not gonna let you change rooms. So I feel like to me he's like B tier.
So, on a story basis, I think he was a really interesting character, first and foremost, because they really got you to feel sorry for this guy at the beginning to end. And you kind of understand why he moves the way he moves. But it's also like you didn't have to do all that, But I also understand his position, and it's a very crappy position to be in, especially when you're getting beaten senseless. But it seems like from the beginning, even before all the violence, he always had this plan to try to finesse his way to the top, you know? So it's like, did you really like have a change of heart later down the line, or were you on this type timing from the beginning? You know, I don't know. So I think out of chaos, and just because of his writing, he really made the show for me at times. I will put him at an A, but I'm okay with the high B because I'm not in love with him. I think it was cool. When we were trying to figure out who was the one that was extended the time, I was so sure it was him, and they almost got me, but I was so sure it was this guy. I was like, what the hell is wrong with you? You know, but yeah.
I mean, honestly, for a story, I really loved that. The story of him secretly torturing these people, because he also, I think,
Mm-hmm.
had every right to get revenge on them. I think they did a lot of
Yeah.
really fucked up shit to all of them, and he was the one where I was like, yeah, you know what? Like, I don't blame him for exacting his revenge on these people.
Again, though, I just wonder, out of he's torturing like floor. Which floor was she? All right, so he's torturing like her. She's floor 4.
Yes,
And
pulled floor
obviously,
4's tooth and pulled out
yeah.
floor 6's toenails.
Why? And I don't know if it was like this in the book, so you can let me know. Why are they so against hurting floor 8? Like she just got out scot free this whole show.
Well, I floor 8 is very, I don't know if she is the same in Pie Game, but in Money Game, it's more like the relevant characters. I don't think the numbers exactly match up, except for
Mm-hmm.
maybe floor 6. But floor 6 demonstrates himself as the strongest physical man, and everybody else is like, um, everybody else is chaotic and too scared to go against him. So he's in charge because he's the physical person, and he's sort of hurting people who go against him. And then the person sort of equivalent to floor 8, like latches on to him as like a sexual partner and is like I will be your like right hand person. She's also a little tough, almost like a little bit floor 2-esque. I thought floor 2 and floor 6 were going to actually team up initially.
Mm.
And so they become almost like the violent power couple within the group. I don't know why floor 8 didn't get hurt. I have to assume that part of the reason was just that, like, either he was working his way up or he
Mm-hmm.
didn't want to go up all of those stairs to get to floor 8.
Interesting. I didn't think about that. That's a good thought. Okay, floor 3. I think floor 3 is, and you know, I watch a lot of like stuff like this, you know, like the Squid Games and stuff like this. I watched a little bit of Alice in Borderland. He is like the typical protagonist. I feel like I was watching anime a little bit because there's this anime, my favorite anime, the Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya. His name is Keon. Acts just like this, just like straight man, very like you're hearing his perspective of everything, even though they share the spotlight with other people. You're always hearing his thoughts and it's being told out of his perspective. And I think he was the most realistic out of everyone because it's like he's just a nice guy, you know. Like you feel bad for the dude a lot. I didn't really get attached to his backstory at the beginning because it kind of just threw you in there, and you don't really go back to like his personal life outside the show. So didn't really care about that too much. But the scene where floor 2 is just like, all right, go ahead, hit him or hit her on the ground, and he just couldn't do it. I'm like, yeah, I feel that. Like you're just a nice guy, team player, getting tased. You know, I respected him a lot. You know, and he never got on my nerves. That's a rare one. Usually these characters get on my nerves. He didn't annoy me.
Well, I think that was something interesting to me, is that I felt like the show could have played more with that, actually. Like, I think that a character like 3, and this is true for the Squid Games too, right? The Squid Games protagonist, is that
Mm-hmm.
you need to see them making really, I think, heinous moral decisions in order to like see them turn it around, right? Like
Yeah.
he should be cowardly in order to not be cowardly anymore, in order to
Yeah.
overcome it. Whereas I think that this floor 3 really floor 7 had that storyline more than floor 3, but because floor 3 is our main protagonist, I think I just would have liked to see him go on a vaguely similar journey to, finding his strength within the show.
See, I think that they kind of play with that a little bit, but not to the extent that it actually happened, because there was a couple of like fake out scenes where you think certain things are going on and then you find out it was just in his head, like floor 8 getting tased, or floor 2 using the baseball bat, or him feeding floor 8 food and she bites his finger. Obviously it didn't really happen, but those are moments where I was like, I wish those actually happened, because that's character development. But I agree with you. It was kind of like on like a straight line the entire show, and it never like went up or down. He just kind of stayed consistent the entire time. So I'm
Yeah.
with that.
And something else I think when it comes to 3 is like, because he's the main character and in the comic this is true, a lot of the freaking out is happening in his head. So what I was hoping for a little bit more is what happens in his head, where he starts to hate everybody that's around him, and he blames everybody. He gets super paranoid about everybody, and I think it's one of his best character traits is that he gets paranoid about everybody, but then it turns out he's just kind of being an asshole. And I wish that we had that here in the show a little bit, but I don't.
Okay.
He's like mid to me.
So was that a B or a C? Because that's the middle of the crap
That's like
right
a
there.
B, a lower B
Okay.
than 2.
All right. Respect. All right. Floor 4. How do we feel about floor 4, Naomi?
It's funny because she annoyed the shit out of me, but also I think that like it was entertaining, but she was definitely a character. I was like, oh my god, this girl's gotta go. I can't deal with it.
Yeah, it's just like you feel bad for her a little bit, because you could tell she's doing. And like I said, I feel like I would be in her position, where you're trying to just survive and do this experience, and if you're in a position where you can live comfortably without getting hurt and you get to eat and stuff, hey, I get it. I get it. Especially if in her position, she's small, can't really do much, and this guy and girl with a taser and a bat is going around hitting everybody. They're leaving you alone. I get it, but I didn't like some of the moves, because she kind of felt fake. Where like, like, oh, let's agree to take all the poop bags, and she just sends it to the next floor and doesn't say anything, or ratting people out during the vote just so she's not at the bottom. And even eventually, when she does get captured, but then like she kind of flips to the other side and helps them like take down the top people again. I still was just like, you're kind of getting it off easy just because you were tied up a couple days. I don't mean, well, I did feel bad that she got her teeth pulled out, obviously, but other than that, it's just like you kind of deserve this a little bit,
Yeah.
So she was very fake.
But
In the
she
show.
was. But I think you have a good point that she was very schemy. She says at one point, like, I was, I feel like I'm a player. I don't feel like I'm a human being. And I thought that was such an interesting take on being in that house. Is you're not doing this to be a good or bad person or a moral, upstanding person. You're doing this because you are trying to win the game that you're playing. But she's C tier for me, just because and again, this ranking is not like how great their characters were. This is how much I want to, like, how much I want. I guess it's like the top is like how much I like them, and the bottom is how much I want them to get the shit kicked out of them. Like
She
that's how I
is
feel.
a straight D tier to me, because I just did not like
Whoa,
her, but I'm okay with
okay,
low
throw her
C.
in, throw her in.
Bet. How crazy would it have been, because she grabbed number 8 originally and then she swapped it. Imagine, was that her or was that the next floor? I totally forget. I think it was her who grabbed 8 and then put it back. But regardless, how different would this show have been if she got that top floor? Who knows? Okay. Floor 5. Naomi, I did not like floor 5. She got on my nerves.
I know.
She annoyed me.
She got on my nerves too. Like, well intentioned, but definitely maybe the biggest root cause. Like, I can forgive floor 1 for pulling out those toenails and kind of causing chaos, but I cannot forgive floor 5 for being a total fucking idiot half the time. You
Yeah.
know?
And obviously she has some mental problems, like I get it, but like even before she frees everybody, I feel like she just made a whole lot of like questionable, like she was just kind of like a little too naive, like she was like an airhead. You get what I'm saying? Like just with a lot of stuff beforehand with the challenges and everything, and she was just very, I don't know, kind of annoyed me, but I'm not. I don't want to put her F tier because I don't think any of these characters are F tier. I will put her like the lowest of the low, though. I'm not gonna lie. Like this is
Yeah,
like the bottom D.
I think that's fine.
All right, bet. How do you? Okay, floor 6. How you like floor 6?
Okay, like I do like floor 6 a lot. As like a character, I think he's a great antagonist. I love the scene where they're doing the talent show and floor 8 is like, my talent is sex, and she's like, you want to have sex with me? And so floor 6 is like, all right. Like he's just so casual about it. That made me laugh. And he's also like, to me, a great villain, because every time you think like, oh, he can't possibly be that bad or mean or fucked up, he is. And I think that's a sign of like like I wasn't always surprised that he like beat the shit out of everybody, because it's like, yeah, that's what he does. But I always felt like maybe this time he wouldn't go so hard. Like when him and two have to like fist fight and he just like goes after her, I was like, oh my God, he is scary. This is definitely a big threat. So I don't I guess I would put him in C tier because I think he's such a good threat. But in terms of how much I actually want to beat the shit out of him, he's F tier because I hate him. But like, it's a great villain.
He might be A for me because I think that
Whoa.
he carried a lot of the show, and yeah, I think he brought a dynamic to the show where you love to hate this guy. Like I really hated this guy a lot. Where if it wasn't from like, obviously like his toenails, you feel bad for the guy, but you did some fucked up shit when you're like kicking a disabled guy and trying to break his leg. And when he starts
Oh,
actually hitting people, I'm like, I hate this guy with the burning passion. And when you finally get to see him get beaten down and tied up, I was so happy. And maybe that's the feeling. It's not really him, but it's like the instant
yeah, it's
karma
good
to his
storytelling.
character. Yeah. But
I'll let you put him in B tier. I can't
I was just about
possibly
to say, let's
endorse him
meet him
being
in the
such a
middle.
violent monster in A
Yeah.
tier.
Oh, he's a
But
terrible person. Terrible
yeah,
person.
exactly.
For sure. I hated him. But he brought entertainment
But it
to the
was pretty
show because
entertaining.
you're just waiting for the moment for this Goliath to get brought down. It's just like, thank God. It was satisfying.
Okay. Floor 7, I really liked.
Yes, me too.
I thought that floor 7, like the character, I think is very tricky to play because he's so stoic and
Yeah.
silent for most of it. But you could always tell that you didn't trust him. You didn't trust that he was 100% on their side when it comes to the upper floors, but you didn't trust that he
Yeah.
was 100% looking out for the like lower level people. So you were always very nervous about him. So I feel like I really enjoyed him. I would put him in A tier.
I'm with that. I think he was a very self-interested player. To find out that he was like a movie producer at the end of it, obviously, and he wrote the 8 show based off of his experiences, was interesting. I wish he showed up to the funeral though. That did bother me a little bit. That's stopping me from putting him in S, because why didn't you show up to the
Mm.
funeral, bro? But he was a team player through and throughout, and I liked how sneaky he was. I thought he was going to get killed the entire show. He felt like
Oh
a
yeah,
guy that was going to get killed off. But W character, liked him a lot. And then we got
exactly.
Floor 8. This is a S tier character to me. I'm not gonna lie.
I understand that, and I actually do kind of agree with the idea that she is like an insane character. Like, I'm
Yeah,
not gonna lie, she pissed me off. I definitely was shocked every time she made a choice or did something where I was like, oh, I didn't even think about doing that. Like, that's so fucked up. I really liked it.
Yeah. The only thing that I'm sad about is that I didn't get to see her get karma. Like she didn't
Mm,
get beat up. She just got to sleep comfortably tied up in the corner and eat. And she just had a smile on her face with the weird pain fetish the entire time. It was that, but the only thing I didn't like with this series, the only episode I didn't even enjoy was her episode where it's very focused on like the sleep deprivation of everybody. I was just
yeah.
like, it's like I'm losing the plot a little bit here. Like I get what you're trying to do here, so I could have went without that, like the sleep deprived episode. But everything else about this character is so chaotic, and when you're introduced to her, I thought that she was going to be like a sweetheart like the entire time, and I find out she's just like this monster rigging games. When she's about to get tased, and then the guy basically saves her from getting tased. I was just like, amazing. Like I loved everything about this character, and that's sick of me. Like I feel like a sick person saying this. She's a bad person, but W character, and I think that this is not the best, but the second best character of it all. So I'm putting her at S. But B tier
Interesting.
and up, I feel like are all great characters for the show.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so funny because I think eight, I agree with you. The sleep deprivation was sort of like slowing the story down a lot, because you just sit there and you feel bad for everybody. But it just goes to show what an insane person she is. I totally underestimated like what her behavior was going to be like. So definitely I was very excited by
Mm-hmm.
everything that she showed on the show.
I just needed someone to put hands on her, but we never got it. It's
Mm.
unfortunate.
I know. I
Um,
really wanted to see like two punch her in the face. But again, I think that's
somebody.
like I don't know. I think that's like the idea that how do you describe it? Like the idea that these people left being more human than the people who were violent. Like,
Yeah.
you can leave saying, well, I didn't beat the shit out of this person, even though I really wanted to. And I guess that's like, congrats, you are a better person than eight.
Oh wait. Oh God. Wait. Why can't I see myself? Okay. Sorry.
That's weird. I see you twice on here, funny enough. It's hilarious.
I don't know what's going on.
It's okay.
But
Two
keep
Isaiahs.
going. Why I fix it? I can hear myself
Oh
for
my
some
god, it's a
reason.
twin twist. It's a twin twist. It's funny.
All right.
Well, so let's talk about the main conceit of the show and these first early episodes, right? Because it's all about entertainment. It's
Mm-hmm.
all about how exciting it is to watch the show. How did you hide yourself twice? Oh no,
Give me a second. Give me a second. Keep going.
my lord. So on the eight show, they originally think that the way to get more time is to run up and down the stairs. When you have more time, you are able to earn more money as there is a dollar amount per minute that goes up. For floor one, it's 10,000 won. Floor two, 20,000, 30,000. It's a Fibonacci sequence 50, 80. I'm not doing the rest of the math. And then when it comes to the time, they originally think, oh, it's going up and down the stairs. But then they realize they're not getting the time that they used to be getting going up and down the stairs. And they realize that actually it's not so much about the stairs, it's about the entertainment value. You know what's funny, Isaiah? I didn't even I didn't see this coming. Like when they said going up and down the stairs, I don't know why I was so stupid. I've literally read the fucking like I don't know why I was dumb. I was like, oh yeah, going up and down the stairs, okay. Like I didn't think that that was wrong. I didn't realize that it would be entertainment, but of course it is.
Yeah, there was some sick guy that was obviously being entertained by them, like, tiring out and stuff. And I don't know if you realize, I feel like the entertainment was coming from the crippled guy constantly going up and down the stairs, which was giving them time. Maybe, I don't know, because when he wasn't running, they were like, "Why aren't we getting time on the clock anymore?" So maybe that was something. Um, I'm curious how you feel about this. We never got to see the person or people out there like controlling the show, giving
Yeah.
them time, giving them resources. Obviously, this I don't think this is just a one person. This is like a collective of people because they were getting things on time. This is an organization somewhere. Why did we not see the people behind the curtains? Because the whole show was like even the posters, there's a huge curtain. I thought there was like something behind the curtain maybe, and we never got to see that. So what you feel about that?
Well, for me, I think that the point of not showing all of the like behind the scenes stuff, we see a lot of it in Squid Game, and we see who these people are that are controlling it, and then we see the inner workings of being like a guard. The reality is, I think that the point of the show is very like Big Brother is watching you. It's
Okay.
very, you're being monitored, you're being entertaining, and you have nobody who is listening to you. You are just being watched. So at a certain point, you're happy to be rewarded for your being watched, but then it becomes like nobody cares about me. I'm being beaten and nobody wants to come in to help me. I think it's definitely meant to be demoralizing, and it's very intentionally isolating the way that they have the cameras constantly blinking at you. Again, floor 3 goes like even crazier about the cameras in the comics, and I wish we got a little bit of that in the no, I wanted to call it waterboarding, but people have been calling it a clockwork oranging, like in the sleep deprivation scenes. I wish we had more of that, because I think it's important for the psyche of the characters to remember that they feel so alone and so not taken care of in any way.
Yeah, and I think that the root of that, they kind of like lean more into it with the finale when he's getting rid of all the cameras and stuff, but you never really get to like, as you said, like see, like him like just staring at the cameras. And now that you say that, I think that would have been great for his character development actually too. Like just to slowly watch this guy like freak out about being watched the entire time, to ultimately just shoot all the cameras and get rid of all. Like that would have been a crazy payoff. I'm actually kind of sad he didn't do that. Why did you tell me that, Naomi? But yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. I mean, truthfully, I know that the problem is also that like narration and in your head narration gets boring at a certain point, and I think
Hmm.
that the show did manage to blend like what is floor 3 just talking to himself and commentating on the happenings of like the room without it getting too like, oh, it's all happening in my head and none of the characters are experiencing it, because you want to have characters talk to each other and explore conflict. So I want to talk about can we talk about the taser and the tasing scenes, because
Yes.
that was, I thought it was so interesting the way that they were like developing, going from the talent show to the king game. Every time they would taser someone and they would fall down and piss their pants, I honestly, I laughed a lot. Like, I know that's not maybe right to do, but those scenes to me were just so insane in a good way. Like everything in the show is insane, but I do think that it all fits. Like the set looks so cool. The vibe of like the suits that like the fake suits they're wearing. I don't know, like the insanity blends in perfectly with the environment for me in this show.
Yeah, me too. One thing that did actually annoy me with the entire environment was like, guys, you literally have the ability to order whatever you want. Obviously, it's going to come at a price. Why did nobody think to like even get a gun? Like, I'm sure it would have cost a lot, but like no one even thought about even searching for a possible gun until like the big guy got out of his handcuffs. Like, you guys were all worried about freaking tasers. Get pepper spray, get like, at least I feel like it should have been a priority for every single person on that show to get at least one thing to defend themselves at some point. It shouldn't have taken you guys to get trapped in your room and your phone's destroyed to think about this. Like get something. Like, I don't know.
Well, I think that's a good point. I think that there is this psychology of like eventually they don't want to waste the time, but in reality, it reminds me a little bit of like the mole or whatever, where it's like, it's very, very Iko Wong shredding the letters from home for the
Yeah.
$5,000 check. And everyone's mad at her and everyone's saying, how dare you? But they wouldn't have given a shit about her. And I think that's a little bit, you got to have that same mentality where it's like, oh, I could spend a couple minutes. Like when floor 8 spends all of their time on the dresses, I was laughing a lot because I was like, oh, it makes so much sense. You can't wear the dresses outside if you don't buy them outside. But I really wish that at some point people had like come to their senses and bought stuff from the room because they knew that, like, yeah, dude, like the time can be earned. Like the time can be earned, the money can be earned back. But, if you're just going to sit there and wallow in it, you're not doing
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah, they didn't. I wish that we saw more people buying things. We didn't see a lot of that. I don't think that aspect of the show was really like explored as far as it really could have been explored outside of like floor 8, obviously buying everything under the sun, or all the weapons that floor 6 bought. But yeah, I really did want more things to be purchased. I was a little confused. I thought that you can buy stuff at the time that was accumulated. Obviously, we were wrong. I wait. Is that the rule? Because how they got the medicine, it was with the time, or was it with someone's personal money?
With the time, they ran to
So
the
yeah, like
they
why not
they
buy
were
more
looking for
things?
it. Although I don't remember, I think they got it, right? Yeah. Um
So that's why I'm like, all right, if you want, unless the phone was destroyed, I totally forget if he destroyed it or not, or maybe he locked it up.
they locked it.
If
They locked up the main room phone. They destroyed all of the personal room phones.
all right, so boom, watch this. You guys want the time to go by faster. Obviously, you tie them up, buy something to get that thing off of the phone, the main phone to buy stuff with, and just buy a bunch of crap so you can finally leave. You can make the time go by even faster.
Well, here's the other thing.
Common sense.
Here's the other thing, right? Like in the comic, it's so much more about like the group. So for example, floor 4, in the comic she has that same like seizure, she has like epilepsy. Actually, I think it's MS in the comic, where she is degenerating, and part of why she needs the money is so that she can pay for these expensive treatments. But the problem is that her medicine is expensive already, and so it's incredibly expensive in the room. And so she basically has to beg these people to let her take her medicine. And she's like, I'm taking like half of the pills so that it lasts longer, but like I need it. And I always thought that was such a compelling part of the story because, do you give up $2 billion to let somebody have the medication that they need? And I felt like this show, like you're saying, didn't play around enough with like the spending, even with like room 3, right? Our main character, he it would be interesting to watch him debate, like, should I spend money to like buy a like smell proof container so I can contain all the like shit that's in my
Mm-hmm.
room. Eventually they like cover it in the comic with like sand, like somebody dies so they make their room the bathroom, and like they cover it with sand, almost like a giant litter box. And it's like, can we watch him debate doing that? And then it's really expensive, so he's like, oh, I don't want to spend it. Like I don't know, I agree,
Yeah.
we lost the plot and the money a little bit, which is maybe the one thing I felt like fell to the wayside. I don't think at the end of the show we concluded the idea that like the money isn't satisfying when you have to go through what you have to go through.
Agreed.
Obviously, they don't like what they had to go through, but it didn't feel like it sold the idea, which I think Squid Game sells a little bit more of like, is this
Yes.
financially worth it? Is this worth all the
Yes.
pain and suffering you're going through?
Agree. And obviously only one person died this show, to be fair. So maybe it was at the end of the day, but missed opportunities all around. I wanted to see like, oh, what if they stop feeding them? Are you guys going to buy some food? Are you guys going to start stealing a lot of stuff? Like I said, I feel like a sick individual even talking about half this stuff, but a lot of more crazy scenarios could have been played around with. But again, I think that's the beauty of the show. They didn't really force scenarios. They kind of let the group decide how the show was going to go, and you entertain them. So all in all, I still enjoy the show. I would love more 8 show, but maybe I think it ended perfectly. Well, the show wasn't perfect. There was some flaws, but the way it ended, I'm satisfied with. Like, I don't need another season of H.O., which is rare because usually I'm like, I want more, more, more. But I think it was a good ending for the show. And I don't know if I necessarily need more H.O. Do you think you need another season of this or no?
I think that's a really good question, Isaiah. I don't need another season of this, and I'll tell you why. Because the Money Game comic is the precursor to the Pie Game, and people say Pie Game is a lot closer to the 8 show. So if you've already skipped the first one and you've gone straight to adapting essentially both of them into the first one, do you need to go to the next? I don't think so. You didn't finish Alice in Borderland. I watched Alice in Borderland. Now, to be fair, that's a Japanese
My parents
show.
love that show.
But Alice in Borderland, really, their season 2 suffered a lot. I like season 1 a lot, and I really was pissed with the way they did season 2. And if you ask me, oh, do you need more Alice in Borderland? No. Even though there are more stories, and I actually just read Alice on Border Road, which is very interesting, you don't need any more. And this is similar to me where, like, even Squid Game, I don't need Squid Game part 2, frankly.
Nah.
Like, I think the story is the story, and clearly now people don't really care what the message of the story is, because instead we're doing reality TV shows for Squid Game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess we didn't get the message, so we're gonna make 10 more seasons, and it's whatever. But yeah, I don't need another season. I thought everybody did a really good job. I've been trying to find the actress who plays Floor 2 on Instagram. It's fucking impossible because everybody
I'll find it for
like,
you.
It's so hard. I found her like K-drama page too, and it doesn't link it. Like, we got to get this shit moving, guys. Like, the fandom needs to. I don't know why the fandom is so slow on this. Gotta get going.
I think I found her already. I could be wrong. We're gonna find. No, that's not her. We're gonna find Floor 2. That's gonna be my side project. Now we're gonna find her Instagram for you and get you locked in to give you a proper stand. Okay.
Yeah. So how do you feel about the violence in this show? Because I think that a lot of people were shocked by the violence in Squid Game, and a lot of people I've been seeing are also very like, oh my gosh, the violence on this show is very intense and plentiful. How do you feel, Isaiah, about the violence in the show and how it sort of fuels the story?
I think it was needed. I think that it ups the intensity. It did something for me that I rarely do, which is made me like, ooh, like quench. I was like, oh, don't hit him. But I think it was needed so you know how serious the show is. Unlike Squid Games is fueled to kill people. This show is torturous. You're not supposed to kill people. You can, but the show's going to end if you do that. You need to torture people to make it last a long time if that's really your prerogative. And I thought that was insane. I was just like, yo, like this is like horrible because someone can get their ass beat over and over, but like they're still force feeding you so you don't die. I'm just like, how sick is that? So I liked it. Like I said, I'm a huge fan of like horror movies and thrillers and scary movies, so it doesn't bother me. And in my real life, I've worked in the operation rooms a couple of times. I've seen gore in real life. These TV shows are nothing close to what some real chaoticness is. Like, I know what that stuff looks like in real life, so it doesn't bother me. But it was good. Sorry,
yeah,
for people who don't like it.
I understand that. I understand that it got a little repetitive. I think that's the thing is like, is it intense? Sure. I think there are grosser TV shows and movies, and I think that Squid Games at time was like grosser. But it reached a repetitive point by like episodes 6 and 7 that I was like, okay, I get it, and I would like a little bit more of our characters' psychological profiles than consistent violence. But what I will say is, I think that it ebbed and flowed. Like, there would be moments when the lower floors, I call it like, I don't want to say the good guys and the bad guys. It's basically what it is, though, where the good guys would be on the up. They would have the upper hand, and they would be pretty casual in how they treated the upper floors. And they would, take care of them. Or the scenes when like floor 5 is cracking emotionally. You understand why
Yeah.
she's cracking emotionally, because everybody's so exhausted they just want to get out of there, but they can't get out of there. Whereas when the upper floors have power and they're being so violent and all these like terribly torturous things, it really starts to spike, and then the action and the intensity spikes again, and then it goes back down when they shift power. But something I think I've seen people saying a little bit is that they see they don't understand why it got so violent. And I feel like they're forgetting that the idea is not that it's like this is how you would treat somebody in real life. It's how you would treat somebody when you knew that being entertaining would get you more money.
Yeah.
That's where the violence is coming from. It's not coming from like, oh, I will keep these people in line by hurting them. It's like, I will make the audience entertained by hurting these people.
And that's why, you know, floor 1's morality comes into check, and you see like his real life with being like a street performer and trying to provide for his daughter and everything, because it's like ultimately he doesn't want to do these things, but he's like, I need this money, I'm going to do what I need to do to get it, you know. And it really shows the ugliness of humanity. Sidebar, I found her Instagram for you.
Yeah, holy shit, how did you do this?
I can find anything, like, Naomi. I can find
that's anything. Crazy. I could not fucking find her.
Well,
she's so cool. The dyed hair, like so tall.
Yes.
Awesome.
Okay.
Follow.
We got anything else you want to talk about?
Well, let's talk about the ending. And then I think just, you know, to wrap it up. So floor 1 pays 1 billion won because he thinks that he will be able to change rooms. And instead they give them the instructions for changing rooms, which is an almost impossible amount of money to transfer rooms. It's not going to happen. They had this dream. They had this idea of how to do it, and it's not happening. So then they decide that they need to leave. But before they can do that, floor 1 decides to set up one last performance. He has this tightrope walk where he starts bouncing and bouncing and reaches the film camera that is displaying like the pool waves, all this, breaks it, pulls it down, sets it on fire, and then eventually falls into the fire. He seems like, so the backstory of 1, of course, is that like his daughter is sick. He was trying to kill himself to get like a life insurance policy payout, and he dies this way. How did you feel watching 1 die? Because I wasn't expecting a character to die because of the rules within the game. How did you feel about this ending scene?
So I expected at least one character to die, and I think I said it earlier, my candidates were number 7 for sure. He got shot in the leg. He didn't die, but he was close.
Yeah, I thought that a lot of injuries that like didn't really manifest.
Yeah.
Like in the comic, like floor 6 gets stabbed with like somebody sharpens a metal chopstick and he gets stabbed with that, but they also stick it. This is so gross. Sorry if you don't skip ahead a little bit, but they stick it in like the feces so that it's infected and it's dirty, and then they stab him with it, and then he basically, you know, has an infection that's spreading from that stab wound. So when 6 gets stabbed or 7 gets shot, I'm like, oh, this is bad. Like these are gonna get bad, and it never really happened.
Yeah, so that's why I was like, it was either going to be 7 or 1 or 2 for me. I thought one of those 3 were definitely going to die. And once you find out that 1 is doing all this crap, I'm like, oh yeah, he's done. Like this guy's injured anyway. Like he's done. And as much as it's sad, he also kind of deserved it to a degree. But you know, it was still sad, especially seeing his family life. Sidebar: I really liked how they showed everyone's backstories before the episode started, each episode, and how they got involved with the show and everything. I thought that was really cool. And I think they saved him. If he wasn't last, he was one of the last. And there was something that they did with the filming that I kind of would have preferred, that they didn't like go all in with it. When he's jumping on a trapeze, he's slowly going higher, and then you see him like go into like the sky, and there's clouds and everything like representing like he's in the afterlife. I thought it would have been so much better as a creative if they stuck with that. So while he's jumping on a trapeze, he's rising into like the sky. Theoretically, that would have been like imagery for like, oh, this guy already died and he's like in the afterlife, and then like they show like a cut to like his dead body on the ground or something. That would have been like, but they took like the more literal version where they're holding your hand and showing you like, oh, this guy fell in the fire. It would have been crazier if like while he's like floating in the air and then he like realizes he's like dead, they show his like dead body burning or something. That would be like, but I get it. I liked it. I thought it, like I said, I think it was deserved, but like the way they built the character up, you still feel bad for him and you understand why he did what he did. And it was semi-justified, especially with the big guy, basically like abusing him the entire time, but it still sucks. This guy was a father, and you feel bad for him, that you're even in the shitty situation where you have to do something like this. So, I think that just shows a successful character in general, because it makes you feel all the emotions towards him like it was real.
That's a really good way of putting it, and I like the idea of him sort of. You feel like he's getting free, and then it turns out this horrible thing has happened. People are saying, I saw this, and I wonder how you feel about it, that it says in the rules that somebody can't die, but actually they don't. The rules actually don't care. The game makers don't care if somebody dies. No. It's interesting because this didn't cross my mind when I was watching it. My thinking was, if the person dies, then the game is over and you've lost. It wasn't so much for me that like, oh, we don't care if floor 1 dies. But now it's making sense as like, well, if floor 1's dead, it's still entertaining, so we're still going to give you time. But I don't know. It just like, it was built into the rules. And so I feel like if they're punished for shooting the cameras, which they mentioned they are, because they're not supposed to cover cameras, I don't know. It's one of those things where I'm like, I know that this is a TV show and that the rules don't matter, but we've also clearly established there are hidden rules and that there are truths that matter 100%, like giving up your clothing and all your personal items and not taking something out of the room, whatever. This is where I'm like, I'm a narc about the rules, but it doesn't matter because it's a death show at the end of the day. But I was surprised at the idea that like, oh, actually, it's fine. Death doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It felt like they like dipped their toe in and they didn't like fully go through with it. There was a lot of like aspects and ideas like that where I just said there are these hidden rules. The people didn't know there were room changes until like, room 1 introduced it. There was a lot of stuff going on that we could have used a couple more episodes, but I think it ended at like the right time because they got their message across. But like, if they didn't want to continue on with this for some reason, like there's a whole plethora of things they could do with this world. Like, let's say they do a whole other group, since this person hasn't been brought down yet, obviously they could explore some of this stuff, because us, the audience, we're aware of some of these things now, and maybe they have characters do some more outrageous things with like the knowledge that you can do certain things, so all in all, there were obviously a whole lot of things that we didn't get to fully like explore, but just having that knowledge in the back of your mind, it's like, that would have been cool. Like, like I wish someone switched rooms. I wish someone did fully die. I mean, that sounds so sick saying out loud. Someone fully died, so we see like the outcome, because it looks like they kept giving them time for this person suffering on the ground and stuff. Yeah.
Another question I have for you is, what did you think of the aesthetic of the show and the style of the show? There's a lot of like fantasy and then snapping back into reality, the aesthetic of the rooms and the floors. What did you think of like the style of the show?
I loved it. Like I said, it reminded me a little bit of the Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya, where you're seeing everything through one person's perspective, but you're also seeing like the livelihood of other characters. I thought the set was amazing. It's hard to like have something like this where you're in one area the entire show and to keep me interested, but they did it perfectly. I'm glad they didn't do challenges and stuff like that were like forced upon them. And I love like this is supposed to be like a realistic scenario, but it's still filled with like fantasy type elements because no one's just going to have this type of. I hope no one's going to have this type of money just sitting around all over the place and just like forcing people to do some crazy shit. I hope that's not going on. We don't know what's going on around here, but you know, I regardless, I think that it succeeded because it felt very realistic. Like this could happen in real life. But it's not, I hope, but like this could happen in real life. So
yeah.
I love
Do you
this.
think if Big Brother Canada, if Big Brother Canada wants to get renewed for another season?
No, leave Big Brother Canada alone.
So please, who's your favorite character in the whole show, or like your favorite moment?
My favorite character is number 8, and my favorite moment was probably that's a good question. I would say my favorite moment was probably the moment where all the characters are doing the talent shows, and it's just kind of funny to see like how far they're all willing to take it to get their talent across. When he starts dancing and he's doing a Block Boy JB shoot dance, the main character, I just started dying because I'm like, what the hell is this? But yeah, I like the talent show a lot. I thought it was funny.
I enjoyed the talent show immensely. I liked when sort of the talent show happens and then, you know, two people, the floors 3 and 4 suck. And then they're like, okay, well, it's no big deal. Like, I don't really have a talent, so it's fine. And then eventually it becomes like, well, that's why you get the bathroom room. I actually really, in that same vein, my favorite episode was when they voted for floor 8. And they were like, yeah, we voted for her. And then it was amazing. Like, you guys are fucking idiots.
Yes. That was another great episode.
Where 7 is talking to 3 and 3 is like, so somebody else voted for me. Very Big Brother, very Survivor in that moment. Like, somebody voted for me. Do you know who it would be? And he's like, I have no idea. I don't know who could have voted for you.
Yeah. I actually forgot that, but that might be up there too. Like, that's when I started tweeting about it. I'm like, the show's crazy. I was like, I feel like I'm watching reality TV. And I was like, if I'm number 8, I'm not doing anything. Like, I'm going to just send it all down there and starve everybody. And it's exactly what she did. I was just like, yo, gangster. Like, that was a fantastic episode. That was a great time. I like that one a lot too.
Overall, I really enjoyed the show. I thought it was a great time, and I would happily watch another season if it was justified. I just don't know when it could be justified. I thought the story really wrapped itself up.
I think it ended the way it needed to end. I hope they just leave it alone. And you know, it's Netflix, so like they're going to renew something. Let's be real. But I hope they leave it alone, and hopefully people one day give the show a chance and it just blows up on social media, because it just needed some proper advertisement, because I think it is slept on. But if you haven't watched it, go check it out.
Very true. Isaiah, can I tell you about what's going on with me here on Silent Podcast, and then you tell me what's going on with you? Okay.
Absolutely.
So we just recorded yesterday night, got to edit it. Quickfire Queens, myself, Gia, Nicole, and our special guest, the one and the only, Real Slim Katie, Miss Katie, joined us to talk about Top Chef this week.
I got to watch it.
Be on the lookout for that coming to your ear holes very soon. Also, Sarah Carradine and I wrapped up our Taskmaster podcast, talked about Taskmaster Series 17, and Sarah is still talking about Taskmaster Australia Series 2, which is super, super funny. So check out what she has going on. And additionally, for me, you got to get ready for Survivor New York Season 8 is going to be hitting the feeds in August. So stay tuned for Survivor New York Season 8. I just painstakingly cast the game, so it's been a really hard road, and I'm very excited for what we have in store.
All right. And like usual, you can find me at 8Ball Bangers and everything. I'm on my break right now. I got a dog, so that's great. But yeah, you can check me and Lavina's Big Brother streams that we usually do, our Brant Steals. The last one we just did is up, so you can go look at that. You can also check out me and Nicole's Isaiah and Nicole show every now and then that we do. We've got some content that we're planning. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I've been doing a podcast called Gamer Mondays with some friends on the Gamer Monday podcast every Monday. I made them all do a tier, a bracket where we had to decide what was the best Nintendo games. That was really fun. So
Oh
you
my
can check
gosh.
that out.
So
Yes.
so Pikmin was number 1 for you?
No, it wasn't. But there was a little bit of controversy. There was
redo that episode.
there was a turf war for, you know what, Naomi, we're gonna have to do that an Isaiah and Nicole show. We'll bring on and we'll do like video games. I don't know if Nicole plays video games, but we'll
I don't know either. I think
something.
she's too cool. I think she's too cool for video games.
We'll be like rank characters based off of aesthetic, and then she'll be like, okay, bet. So okay, until next time, have a good one. Bye.
Bye.